Funny about my name. My name is Marc Scott Zicree. My mother, the Scott in my middle name, is an old boyfriend of my mom's that she didn't tell my dad she was naming me after.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, so.
This is how you start an interview, guys.
Yes.
You say, that, like, I feel like this is what, Jerry Springer-esque kind of?
Yes.
Like one of those old talk shows from the 90s. Like, this is that's where that stems from.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's the best icebreaker
It
ever.
is. Well, yeah, sure. Because you know, see, my mom loved people, and so I just love talking to people, meeting new people. It's like, man, the world is like this wonderful candy shop, and you just decide what candy you want.
Reese's.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is it. Well, I need to talk about this shirt.
Space Command.
That's it. Look at this shirt.
Yes, this is a shirt for Space Command. This is one of the covers of our comic book, because we're doing novels, comic books, and radio plays and animatics, and a film series.
Yes.
And my friend Kasturi was the model. She's wonderful. And Ian McCaig, who designed Darth Maul and Queen Amidala and Groot and the Hulk in the Avengers, the Mark Ruffalo Hulk, and so forth. He's our designer on Space Command. So he did this wonderful cover.
Oh my God! And it looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, I was staring at it for a good solid few minutes, and it's just, the design is just perfect. And as you said, this the model here is just gorgeous.
It's wonderful. And she's going to be on camera. She's actually already been in Space Command on camera, and she's also behind the scenes in production. So she's a dear friend and quite wonderful.
Talk about a little bit about this new one
The Great Solar War?
Yeah. The Great Solar War.
Well, this is the Kickstarter campaign we have going, which is Space Command, The Great Solar War. So Space Command is a 12-hour season made up of 2-hour stories that connect into a larger arcing story.
So you're the multiverse, but not really the multiverse?
Sort of, kind of.
Okay.
And so we basically follow 4 families over 200 years as we go out into space, jump to the stars, all of that. And it's about the ripple effect between generations, and we jump back and forth between the generations. So we've just finished shooting hour 6 of the 12-hour season.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And now we're rolling camera on hours 7 and 8 now, and that's Great Solar War. And so within the year, our plan is to finish shooting the entire 12-hour season, and then we have 6 other series that are waiting in the wings that I'm creating with the creators of The Expanse and Farscape and so forth.
How did you come into this level of genre? What attracted you to it?
Well, I was always a weirdo. I mean, it's like, you know,
you're in the perfect place for it. So am I.
Exactly.
I actually had an interview too.
Yeah.
He said I'm a nerd, and I was like, well, you're in the right place.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd too. Hello.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's because when I was a kid, my parents divorced when I was 3, and I think the idea of running as far as I could really appealed to me, and space was the farthest. You know, this was during the space program, and when Star Trek, the original Star Trek debuted, the fact that they were all a family, no matter what happened, they all were there for each other, and that was so appealing to me. And so the world of science fiction just beckoned to me, and it was so hopeful because it talked about a future that would be better than the present, a future that would be worth living in. It wasn't dystopic, and Gene Roddenberry was a visionary because he had you know, I met Michelle Nichols when I was 10, when the show was on the air.
Jealous.
And she gave me scripts from the show, her personal scripts. She gave me a signed photo. We corresponded. Then I got to go on the Star Trek set. You know, I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And you know, this is right around when Martin Luther King told her to stay on the show, because she was a positive role model.
Absolutely.
And people became astronauts and scientists and teachers. I mean, the messages of Star Trek was so powerful. And I was noticing recently that after I had a very, very successful career in television, writing for Next Gen and DS9 and Babylon 5 and Smurfs and He-Man and Super Friends and Real Ghostbusters and on and on.
I mean, I could talk about He-Man after this conversation, so go on.
Yes. So I said, but I was seeing that all the recent science fiction was so dystopic and so dark, and I thought, I want to have the message that we can create a better future, that compassion put into action makes the world better. You reach across boundaries and barriers, you let people in, you recognize the common humanity of everyone. Yeah. And so for instance, Great Solar War, the message of that is it's taking place during a potential war, but the message is the person that you're considering the enemy is not the enemy. They are human just as you are, whatever they look like, even if they're aliens for that matter. And the enemy is the very notion of war. the notion that it's okay to kill other people, the notion that it's okay to create. Yeah, and I said, the answer to atrocity is not more atrocity. The answer to atrocity is justice. And so that's what we're talking about. And so it's a big space-going show with spaceships and aliens and giant robots and everything we love.
And it has a message in there.
And it has a message, but it's interesting. When I wrote the Twilight Zone companion, when I was in my early 20s, I interviewed Rod Serling's brother, Robert.
Okay.
And he said Rod always had this pill that the message was like this pill that he wanted you to swallow, but he would surround it in like candy or something that you would really like to swallow, and that was story. That was story, and that was the episode, and that was the characters. But right in the middle of all that was the message. But he wasn't hitting you over the head with it.
Exactly.
So yeah,
that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And He-Man, I've been talking about He-Man for the past couple of days. With Jay Oliva, who did the 2002 version.
Yes.
But of course, I love the original.
I'm OG. I wrote for the first season.
And so you wrote for the first season.
Yeah.
You didn't do season 2.
They hadn't even. Well, I think I probably did. I mean, I was a freelancer, so I would be writing Smurfs at the same time I was writing He-Man. Be writing Real Ghostbusters at the same time I was writing, the Littles or Black Star, and any of. I was the God of Animation. I wrote for all of those companies, but simultaneously. So we were all like that. It was this very small group of writers, maybe about 30 total.
Okay.
And we all knew each other. We went to each other's parties and homes, and we were all in our 20s and early 30s. And someone once asked me, "Do you write for the child in the audience?" And I said, "No, I write for the child in myself."
I was going to say, you write for you.
Oh,
You're writing for you.
Yeah. So I had to write jokes that were funny to me. I had to write stories that were interesting to me. And but I always brought my A game. And so with He-Man, they hadn't even animated it yet. They just showed us like the sketches of what the characters would look like the series Bible, and we just rock and roll. We just come up with plot lines, and it might be like Tila or Skeletor or whomever, but the focus, of course, was on He-Man as the main character, but you'd also riff on the other characters. It was great fun.
I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and the reason I wanted to bring it up because there was always been this conversation, especially during season 2, what would have been the last episode of He-Man?
Yeah.
And I can't remember the title of it, but I do remember the scene where it was the only time He-Man turned back into Adam and you saw the transformation.
Wow.
Because the episode synopsis is basically what happened was that He-Man thought he killed somebody in the episode, but it did not happen that way. That was a trick from Skeletor.
Yeah, sure.
And once He-Man found out about it, obviously Orko had tried to get to him, but Skeletor prevented him, but Orko was able to escape. He-Man, Prince Adam threw his sword away.
Yes.
And once he got it back, turned into He-Man. Tila was also there.
Yeah.
Gets knocked out. And you just see He-Man picking up Tila and carrying her off into the moonlight, back to Eternia. So people like to say that should have been the last episode of He-Man, but it actually wasn't. Not.
Yes, exactly. Yes, but it's funny because I always wondered, like, He-Man looks so much the same in both of its identities. It's like, why aren't people recognizing?
Why don't people recognize that?
Yeah,
it's just the only thing that changed was the color of the skin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
it's like
his hair got a little darker, but other than that, he looks exactly the same. I never understood that. At least in the 2002 version, he looked different. But even the original, I was like, even She-Ra looked different.
Yes, so, I know. So it was very strange. It was very strange. But it was funny because like I recently saw an episode, and I hadn't remembered how sort of sassy and snippy Skeletor was. He's very sarcastic.
Oh my God, Alan Oppenheimer was great in the role, and it was written very well.
Yes,
written very well.
It was fun.
And I'm so glad I got to talk to you about that and talk to you about Snakeskin. Love the shirt. Yes, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
This has been great. Thank you.